Hi everybody. So I did a video earlier, but I deleted it. And I just thought, it just didn't fit my mood. And it didn't quite fit what I wanted to say. And so I deleted it, and that was a few hours ago. And I was gonna go to bed. But something came to my mind. And I thought, you know what? Now is the time to do the video. Now I know what I want to say. It just came to me and I thought, well, this is it. So I haven't been in church in a few years other than a couple of visits to Catholic church here and there and Awanas with my kids recently. For the most part, I haven't been in church because of things I don't like, and I wanted to do some learning on my own, so I took a hiatus, if you will, even though I'm not the one teaching. But some time to study and learn on my own a little bit. And because I have children, I didn't want them being misguided. I didn't want them being taught the wrong things. And the way I see it is, there is no church that's going to teach the right thing completely. But it's a scary thing because some of the things they do or say or teach are just way off. And sometimes they're just a little off. But the little off is something it's big. And anyway, I can tell you guys my stories another time, because I did have reasons for leaving and trying different ones and leaving them. And they were pretty serious reasons, but not the ones you guys would think of the whole Messianic, Jewish, Christian. That wasn't the reason why I left them. But I can tell you guys those stories another time if you want. But for now, I want to talk to you about what happened in church today. So I decided to go and give it a shot, realizing none of them are going to be, no matter what you do. Even the Messianic congregations, I can go into that another time too. So I went, and the pastor said something that I hope to call him on and give him a chance to clarify himself and redeem himself in my eyes, and hope he will correct himself or clarify himself in church too. Maybe I can email him, but don't know how to go about it and if he will even respond, because I've emailed to him before about the way they do communion, because I was not the only one who felt the way they did. Actually, it was brought up in church when I was going to that church. Someone else brought up the thought that I had, and he belittled them more or less. Made it seem like it was no big deal, their opinion on communion. So that was one of my hang-ups, because I didn't like how he addressed the person who had been questioning him on communion. And I was like, wow, I had the same opinion. I left the church, and soon after, I ran into a few of the people from that congregation. I actually have a hard time recognizing people unless they talk to me often, but they recognized me. And it wasn't for the head covering, because at the time I wasn't covering my hair. But they recognized me, and they told me that they left. And that was one of the reasons why they left. And some also from another church, they also told me they left. And anyway, people leave churches for reasons that they think are good reasons for leaving. But I went to church today, and it wasn't about communion though. So he, the pastor, had said something along the lines of, actually he said exactly and then he went on, but he said that it doesn't matter what side of the aisle you're on, Democrat or Republican. He said it didn't matter what side you were on, because we all know right from wrong. Whether you're on the left side or the right side, it doesn't matter who you vote for. What matters is knowing right from wrong, no matter who's in office. Well, I'm hoping that he will redact that and say something a little bit more clear. And I disagree with him right now at this point. And it's not a little thing, it's a big thing. And you want to know why pastors say stuff like that? And why people on YouTube say stuff like that, and pastors on YouTube and pastors, they're afraid of losing the flock. They're afraid of losing their congregations. That's why they do it. They don't want to be hated. They don't want to be mocked, and they don't want their churches to dissipate, And they want to keep people in their churches. So they don't want to offend them. They don't want to be persecuted. But you want to know something. Comes a time when you just got to say the truth, whether or not people are going to hate you for it. And sometimes there's no way to candy coat something. The saying, you can win more flies with honey. But you know what? Sometimes you can't honey coat it. Sometimes you just got to tell the truth. And I'll tell you a truth. If you are a Democrat, or if anyone is a Democrat, we'll just say those who are Democrats, voting Democrat, and want to continue to vote Democrat, are still on or currently on that side. I'm not going to say the right side is perfect either. I think it's better to be at least in the middle or on the right or none at all. But to say that you are a Democrat, if you do, or anyone who says they are a Democrat, I'm sorry, but there is no Democrat knowing right from wrong. They might know some rights from some wrongs, like be nice to one another. But how nice? I'm sorry, you can't be on the left and be a Christian. Why? One, because they believe in killing the unborn. They will vote for that. No vote is worth voting for children to be killed, period. And the other is voting to support the lifestyles of the Rainbow Group, the Rainbow Club. You can be loving and caring and respectful and pray for and be kind to the Rainbow people. But to vote left is to vote for them to live in sin. And another thing I wanted to say that came to my mind is we are responsible for our brothers, at least to a point. We are our brother's keeper. And not only that, but we are at least supposed to try to look out for those who are also not believers like ourselves. We are to be the Good Samaritan in more ways than one. And so I was going to say, sometimes you have to throw a rock in front of them to keep them from going any further, Let them stumble so they don't continue to walk and run in the wrong direction, so you can grab them, pick them up, and carry them the right way, What I'm saying by that is voting against what they want. That would be the stumbling block. That would be a good stumbling block. So they won't continue in the wrong path, hopefully. So you can keep them from possibly keep them from committing very grave sins. So voting against the left is voting against abortion at the very least. And, that could possibly stop them from sinning, hopefully. Anyway, so that was a thought that I had. So you can't be on the left. The pastor is just wrong. He's afraid of losing his flock. I'm sorry, but what he's doing is losing his flock. He's causing them to be lost by lying to them like that. You cannot be on the left and go to heaven if you're going to be voting for children to be killed. I'm not God, but I can tell you one thing. God does tell us who's going to heaven and who's not. And if you're causing someone to sin like that, God said it would be better for a millstone to be tied around your neck than to cause one of his little ones to stumble and fall. We could cause them to stumble and pick them up if they're running in the wrong direction, is what I'm saying. So like a vote against them is a vote to stop them and hopefully pick them up and carry them in the right way. But to cause them to continue in sin, it'd be better for a millstone to be hung around your neck. That's what I'm saying, and he's afraid to say it. I'm not. I might get a lot of hate for it, though. Oh, well. Anyway, and I wanted to read just a little bit from Matthew chapter 13. Oh, and another thing I wanted to mention is, I don't have it marked, but you guys know the story where Jesus cleansed the temple, where he threw out the people who were trying to barter and sell. He was trying to kick them out because they were being dishonest in their selling of the goods. Because as it is, they had to do business as far as selling doves and doves anyway, I know, for offerings, you know, but they were being dishonest. Well, pastors are being dishonest when they lie to the flock, and maybe they need a good kick in the shin, but not physically. Technically, maybe it'd be a good thing if we could kick them out and get some good pastors in somewhere. You know, that's the reason why we leave the church, is because they lie. Anyway, I mean, the pastor, he speaks really well on things. You know, he's always been a good speaker, and I like that about him, but then he'll say something like that. It makes me wish I could get right up there and speak. I did say something a little loud, not loud enough. Maybe one day I'll get up the courage to just say it loud enough. But I did say it would at least, because he was saying it's not really helpful or whatever, it doesn't matter who you vote for. I said, well, it would matter some. It would help some. I said it loud enough for a few people around me to hear. But people speak up in that church, and they say things sometimes. But it's when they say things that the pastor's going to like. He wouldn't have liked me saying something like that. And maybe next time I'll ask him, could you clarify that? Because I disagree. I hope to be able to talk to him about it. He'll probably hate me for it. Anyway, chapter 13, parable of the soils. This shows you that not everybody, anyway, you just can't try to keep everybody in the church by lying to them. You tell them the truth and see who stays. You know, it's kind of like that where they say that you let the bird go, and if it belongs to you, it'll come back or it'll stay. Well, and that's the same thing that they need to do by telling the truth. They need to tell the truth, and whoever belongs to God, or whoever's willing and ready to listen and hear the truth, will stay. Those who aren't will leave, and hopefully if a seed was sown and it grows within them, they'll come back, right? It's better that than lying to them. Chapter 13. I'm just going to read the parts in red. So it starts on verse 3. So, behold, a sower went out to sow, and he sowed some seed, and as he sowed, some seed fell by the wayside, and the birds came and devoured them. Some fell on stony places where they did not have much earth, and they immediately sprang up because they had no depth of earth. But when the sun was up, they were scorched, and because they had no root, they withered away. And some fell among the thorns, and the thorns sprang up and choked them. But others fell on ground and yielded a crop, some 100-fold, some 60, some 30. He who has ears to hear, let him hear. Now we're going to skip a little bit again to his words in red. Because it has been given to you to know the mysteries of the kingdom of heaven, but to them it has not been given. For whoever has, to him more will be given, and he will have abundance. But whoever does not have, even what he has will be taken away from him. Therefore I speak to them in parables, because seeing they do not see, and hearing they do not hear, nor do they understand. And in them the prophecy of Isaiah is fulfilled, which says, hearing you will hear and shall not understand, and seeing you will see and not perceive. For the heart of this people has grown dull, their ears are hard of hearing, and their eyes they have closed, lest they should see with their eyes and hear with their ears, lest they should understand with their heart and turn, so that I should heal them. But blessed are your eyes, for they see, and your ears, for they hear. For assuredly I say to you, that many prophets and righteous men desired to see what you see, and did not see it, and to hear what you hear, and did not hear it. Therefore hear the parable of the sower. For anyone hears the word of when anyone hears the word of the kingdom and does not understand it, then the wicked one comes and snatches away what was sown in his heart. This is he who received seed by the wayside. But he who received seed on stony places, this is he who hears the word and immediately receives it with joy. Yet he has no root in himself, but endures only for a while. For when tribulations or persecution arises because of the word, immediately he stumbles. Now he who received seed among the thorns is he who hears the word, and the cares of this world and the deceitfulness of riches choke the word, and he becomes unfruitful. And I want to mention too the becoming unfruitful thing. That church used to be full of people. And when I went this time, which has been a few years, that church, my son counted everybody, and there were 50 people in there. That church used to at least have a couple hundred. Why did people leave? Reasons like me, I know a few did. Maybe they got tired of hearing lies. Maybe some fell by the wayside for other reasons. But it's interesting because he says they'd be fruitful if they tell the truth, though. As it says right here, he who hears the word and the cares of it says, he who received seed among the thorns is he who hears the word, and the cares of this world and the deceitfulness of riches choke the word and become unfruitful. But he who received seed on the good ground is he who hears the word and understands it, who indeed bears fruit and produces some 100-fold, some 60, some 30. And then the parable of the wheat and tares, I think, goes along with it, because this talks about, it's kind of like the church too, because it has people who are truly searching and wanting to understand, and they truly receive. And then there are others who say they do, but they want it to be this emotional stuff, but they can't take the heavy weight of the truth. They just want it. They want the truth to be what they want it to be instead of what it is. Another parable he put forth to them, saying, the kingdom of heaven is like a man who sowed good seed in his field. But while men slept, his enemy came and sowed tares among the wheat and went his way. But when the grain had sprouted and produced a crop, then the tares also appeared. So the servants of the owner came and said to him, Sir, do you not sow good seed in your field? How then does it have tares? He said to them, An enemy has done this. The servant said to him, Do you want us then to go and gather them up? But he said, No, lest while you gather up the tares, you also uproot the wheat with them. Let both grow together until the harvest. And at the time of harvest I will say to the reapers, First gather together the tares and bind them in bundles to burn them, but gather the wheat into my barn. So there's that, and then I guess I'll read the next one because it's short. It's the parable of the mustard seed, and he says, The kingdom of heaven is like a mustard seed, which a man took and sowed in his field, which indeed is the least of all the seeds, but when it is grown, it is greater than the herbs, and becomes a tree, so that the birds of the air come and nest in its branches. So I wanted to mention all that, and there's one other thing I wanted to read, but the church is kind of like that. There are the weeds and the tares in the church. Everybody thinks that the church is just full of tares, but the wheat, the good stuff, but it has no weeds in it, they think. Or they think it's fine to let the weeds stay there. Well, it's fine to let anybody come in and listen and hope that, they become wheat. But at the same time, allowing certain things to stay in the church that shouldn't, or lying to the people is not good. Then it's like the pastor, like he says some things that are true and some things that are completely false. It's like he's sowing both. And then I also saw other things while I was there. I saw girls in Daisy Dukes, and I saw one that, not sure if they identified as a male or a female, in quite short shorts, not quite Daisy Dukes, but almost. And, you know, a couple of friends of mine on Facebook said, well, maybe you're judging. No, I'm not. I'm saying what I see, because those people are regulars. And, you know, it used to, when I was a kid, our parents knew, even non-believers knew, and they'd send their kids to church on the buses at least, and the buses would take the kids, and the kids still didn't dress like that. I guess there's always been a measure of people dressing improperly for church. I mean, even in Mexico, you see it everywhere, but it's sad when nobody teaches them and guides them and corrects them and tells them this isn't the way you dress for church. You don't wear Daisy Dukes. You don't wear cut-off tops that are showing your middle with no sleeves. And that's what I saw, and it's just like, it's sad that the church hasn't guided them properly, because they're people who have been regulars, you know, and even so, in this society, don't people know you don't dress that way for church? I'm not judging them. I'm just saying, why is it that nobody teaches them correctly? Because it's not just on the kids. I'm not judging the kids. I'm judging the people that should know better. And I'm not exactly judging them, but I'm saying that it is wrong. And that's a sign that the church has gone by the wayside, because that used to be a no-no. And everybody used to know it. And now they don't anymore. And that's sad. Anyway, and I was going to read, I thought I was going to read something here. Oh yes, the rejection by many followers is what I was going to read. John chapter 6, verse 6 and through 66. Therefore, many of his disciples, when they heard this, said, "This is a hard saying, who can understand it?" When Jesus knew in himself that his disciples murmured about this, he said to them, "Does this offend you?" And he also said, in the end times, many will be offended. There's another verse that says that. What then if you should see the Son of Man ascend where he was born? No, I'm sorry, I read that wrong. What then if you should see the Son of Man ascend where he was before? I think this is key too, because a lot of people, they just don't understand God and Jesus, so they want to say things that aren't quite correct. And this shows that there is something that we just need to let the word speak for itself, and maybe just not even say what our opinions on it, better than correcting the Bible. But this says, what then if you should see the Son of Man ascend where he was before? It is the Spirit who gives life. The flesh profits nothing. The words that I speak to you are spirit and they are life. But there are some of you who do not believe. Then in black, because all that was Jesus' words, then in black it says, for Jesus knew from the beginning who they were who did not believe and who would betray him. And then he said, now it's in red, therefore I have said to you that no one can come to me unless it has been granted to him by my Father. That's what Jesus says. I'm going to read it to you again. Therefore I have said to you that no one can come to me unless it has been granted to him by my Father. From that time, many of his disciples went back and walked with him no more. And that's a sad thing too, because that's, that kind of speaks to now, disciples that were with him are with him no more. And believers that were with him are with him no more, Pastors that were with him, kind of makes you wonder if they are or they're not. Are they just confused? But they're teaching things that they certainly shouldn't. Even if it just seems like minimal little things. Those aren't little things. Those are big things, But another thing I wanted to point out was that Jesus talked about his Father. So let it be. So many people want to say, well, Jesus is his Father. Well, then why let it be so confusing? I personally believe that Jesus has always been with his Father. And I'll explain this to you. First of all, I want to read this little verse to you again. I'm going to read two of them. Verse 62 and 65 of John chapter 7. What then if you should see the Son of Man ascend where he was before? And then verse 65. Therefore I have said to you that no one can come to me unless it has been granted to him by my Father. Now Jesus says he is God, and that's true. But Jesus is God the Son. Jesus talks about how God gives him us as his inheritance. Now, I don't want to say that this comes from paganism. Paganism comes because Satan knows the truth about God. Satan knows the Bible backwards and forwards. So Satan knows what to steal because he wants to be the end all, be all, okay? But to make this clear to you, you know how in Egypt, all right, the pharaohs would take on the name Pharaoh. The one, then the next one, all call themselves Pharaoh. They would even repeat names, that they would receive the same name that their father had. They also believed that they were gods, or they would say they were. Whether or not they truly believed it, only they know. We weren't in their heads. Did they truly believe it? Maybe yes, maybe no. But they certainly used it to their advantage. But they all used the same title. Now, like I said, Satan stole that from God. Don't let people confuse you. Satan knew all about God, all about Jesus all along, so he took that and tried to mimic it in his own world. Because Satan is the God of this world, remember. He's not the true God of this world, but Jesus has the same title as God. It was given to him by God. And God is just a word we use because he is God. There is only one God. That's another thing to go on, this tangent that I have about this guy in the other church I went to. But God passes the title on. God is always God. God is always the king. There are two kings. God the Father and God the Son are both kings. They both share the kingdom. 1 Corinthians 11 will show you that Jesus sits at the right hand of God. At the end of the Gospels, Jesus says he's returning to sit at the right hand of his Father. 1 Corinthians 11 says that first is God, then is Jesus, then is the man, then is the woman. And like I said, there are verses towards the end of the Gospels where Jesus says that God gives him, the believers, as his inheritance. Jesus receives the title that his Father had. They're both God because Jesus receives the title of God. But God doesn't die. Like the Egyptian gods, Egyptian kings that considered themselves gods. One king, he'd be called Pharaoh, and he would die, and his son would be called Pharaoh, and he would die, and his son would be called Pharaoh, and he would die. They were all gods, but they weren't really God, They were false gods. In any case. But in our case, God doesn't die, and he still passes on the title as God, and he keeps the title. There are two. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. Because he received the title. How many times does Jesus talk about his Father? It's not a sin to say that Jesus is God and Jesus is God the Son. It causes so much confusion. And so, if you disagree, you disagree. But I believe that it causes serious confusion. And the Jews, like I said, they're waiting for a human king. They also don't believe that Jesus could come down being God the Father. That it just causes so much confusion for them. Well, it causes a lot of confusion for everybody because people are afraid to say Jesus was at the right hand of his Father. And then the Muslims, they believe that Jesus was a prophet. And Jesus was a prophet. Jesus was the highest prophet. He was the highest rabbi. But Jesus was more than that. He is the Messiah. He is the King of the Jews. Messiah means king, like I said. And they would be like, well, why would God come down and die? And it just causes confusion for them too. We just need to stick with the truth. That God sent his only begotten Son. Remember John 3:16? Let's turn to John 3:16. John. Now, do you believe the Bible or do you not? Because they will also tell you, at least the Baptists, I'm not exactly sure how all the other churches teach it, but I'll tell you one thing. The Baptists say that we have to take the Bible word for word. And in Genesis, it is exactly how it says in 7 days. I personally believe a day is 1,000 years. 1,000 years is a day. There's a verse. So I believe that differently, but that's okay. You can believe it's exactly 7 days. But if you believe that to be the truth, then why not believe John 3:16 to be the truth? If you're going to take that literally, because some homeschool groups say you can't be in our homeschool group if you're going to talk about the 7 days. Well, that's fine. Don't disagree. It's fine. It's better not to be in disagreements and arguing. But to say that you have to believe something or just remain silent, I don't know. It's not good to argue, so might as well just not discuss it. But I'm just saying, if you can take all the rest of the Bible you say you have to take literally and to be the truth, why can't you take all of it? If you say that, why not make it true? John 3:16, and he said to those who... No, John 3:16, that's not it. John 3:16, for God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten son. Do you believe that or do you not? Do you believe that he gave his only begotten self? Or do you believe that he gave his only begotten son? Did he sacrifice himself or did he sacrifice his son? It can't be both. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten son. Remember when Abraham went to sacrifice his son. That was a picture of God sacrificing his son. Only God gave a lamb. In our case, Jesus was the lamb. But do you believe it or do you not? Why teach it? Why make us memorize that in the Baptist church if it's just not true? I never realized that people believed that differently until a couple years ago. And I never realized that what I was taught to believe in church, they said that I got all wrong. It's interesting. Because I never knew that they didn't believe this in all those years of being Baptist. I was raised in the Baptist church, mostly also in the Lutheran. But anyway, mostly in the Baptist. John 3:16, for God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten son. I believe that. That whoever believes in him should not perish, but have everlasting life. Verse 17. For God did not send his son into the world to condemn the world, but that the world through him might be saved. For God did not send who? Himself? For God did not send his son into the world to condemn the world, but that the world through him might be saved. He who believes in him is not condemned, but he who does not believe is condemned already because he has not believed in the name of the only begotten Son of God. He had not believed in God, or he had not only begotten. Is that what it says? Because he has not believed in God? It says no. It says because he has not believed in the name of the only begotten Son of God. And this is the condemnation, that the light has come into the world, and men love darkness rather than light, because their deeds were evil. For everyone practicing evil hates the light and does not come to the light, lest his deeds should be exposed. But he who does the truth comes to light, that his deeds may be clearly seen, that they have been done in God. And also, when Jesus died and rose again, it says that God rose Jesus. And I don't know if I can find it real quick or not. All right, the burial of Christ. So there lay Jesus, because this is John chapter 19. So there lay Jesus because of the Jews' preparation day, for the tomb was nearby. The resurrection of Christ. On the first day of the week, Mary Magdalene came to the tomb early while it was still dark and saw that the stone had been taken away from the tomb. Then she ran and came to Simon Peter. Let's see. It says he must rise again from the dead in verse 9. And hold on a second, just so I can see if I can find it. Well, this is good enough right here. Chapter 20 of John, verse 17. Jesus says, "Do not cling to me, for I have not yet ascended to my Father." He had not yet ascended to himself. "I have not yet ascended to my Father. But go to my brethren and say to them, I am ascending to my Father." I am ascending to myself? No. "I am ascending to my Father and your Father, and to my God and your God." So does Jesus just lie through the whole Bible by telling us that he's going to his Father? Or is he tricking us? Is he trying to confuse us? Is his burden light or is it heavy? Is he being confusing on purpose? Verse 21, "Peace to you, as the Father has sent me, I also send you." He said that his Father sent him. He didn't say that he sent himself. And then I'll read to you 1 Corinthians. First Corinthians chapter 11. And not to try to tell you to cover your hair like I do. That is a decision for yourself to make. But I want to read to you something. It says, chapter 11, verse 2. "But I want you to know that the head of every man is Christ, the head of woman is man, and the head of Christ is God." Is Christ the head of himself, or is it what it says it says? "But the head of the woman is man, and the head of Christ is God." It says what it says. And so I think that it's time that, we just stop the confusion and stop saying things that aren't true. And if you're not sure, just don't preach on it. I believe what I believe. And if you disagree, you disagree. But I do believe that Jesus was there with God in heaven before he came. Now I can give you my ideas of what happened, and I'll go ahead and tell you what my thought is. I believe that what God did, it doesn't say it in the Bible, so don't take it for strict scripture. Just to help you with reasoning, because maybe you can't get your head around it at all. But what I believe is that what God likely did is he wiped Jesus's memory of heaven and then gave it back to him little by little as he was ready to process it as a human. That's what I think. And so there you have it. And as far as Jesus being born of a virgin, there are creatures that reproduce without a male. And so if God can create Adam from the dust of the ground, and he can create Eve from Adam, certainly he can create a body for Jesus. Can he not? And as far as if you want to believe or think or consider that maybe the picture of Adam and Eve is just a picture of God and Jesus, possibly. But I do believe that Jesus was there with God in heaven. And so there you go. That's what I believe. But we need to stop the confusion, because it is very confusing, and that's why Jews and Muslims don't come to Jesus, because we're confusing them. Anyway, so there you have it. And those are my thoughts right now. And I also had thoughts about Zelensky, pictures of him, this video about him with, what's her face? Hold on, because I'm having a brain fart. Yeah, I don't know, I couldn't think. Pelosi, Nancy Pelosi. It's because I'm always saying Pelosi in my head and then I confuse myself. But you know what? We need to continue to pray for Zelensky, because I don't know if he's talking to God. I don't know if he's hearing God or not. I do know that he does not believe in Jesus Christ, Yeshua Messiah. And that can be a major hindrance. And God can use the enemy for his good. Only God knows what his plan is and what he wants and what's going to happen. No matter what, prophecy will happen. Prophecy isn't necessarily good, but prophecy is prophecy. So we don't know what's going to happen with Ukraine and Russia. I'm going to go into more of that in another video. But just keep Zelensky in your prayers that he come to believe in Yeshua Messiah, and that Pelosi and her minions, I mean, they're getting their sticky fingers and things over there. So how their sticky fingers are going to affect the plan currently, and how her sticky fingers and their sticky fingers are going to affect Ukraine after, I wouldn't trust them as far as I could throw them. If they're screwing things up for the United States, they're going to screw things up for Ukraine. And God help us all. So let's continue to at least just pray that God be with us. God give us strength. God give us clarity. And God help us not lose our faith in these times. And be truthful no matter what. And if I'm going to continue to go to that church, I don't know. But only time will tell. I think it comes to the point now where maybe we need to continue or go back to the church whether or not we agree and start speaking up. I think that's maybe what we need to do. Anyway, and just continue to teach our kids and let them learn what they can learn, but teach them to correct also, to not be afraid to stick up and say, no, you're teaching that wrong, if they do teach something wrong. And so there you have it. We all have to make our own decisions in that. It's a tough one to make. But it's just as tough to send them to Sunday school and have them in church as it is to send them to public school, I think. But we have to make those choices. We just have to continue to teach our kids on our own so they know to say, that's not you. That's not correct. No, that's not what it says. No, this is how I understand it. We need to guide them and teach them so that they know. Anyway, so there you go. Thank you for listening, everybody, and have a blessed night. And I hope you come back. It's a tough video, but there you go. All right, bye-bye.